welcome to the Friday show presented by Woodbine. I'm Ray Paulick, pleased to be joined by Drew Fleming, the president and CEO of Breeders' Cup Limited. There are an awful lot of Breeders' Cup prep races going on this week, some win and you're in races. I'm going to first mention Woodbine, which has the E.P. Taylor Stakes, a grade one. Fans will be able to see the return of Queen's Plate winner Moira. Good news for Kevin Attard. There are no Charlie Appleby horses coming over from Europe. He's just unbeatable at Woodbine. There is a Godolphin horse in there, though, that's trained by Brad Cox. And, of course, if it's a grade one on turf, Chad Brown has something going. Don't forget that there's a guarantee in the Pick 5 and the Pick 4. Pick 5 starts race 2, Pick 4, race 4. Well, Drew, earlier this year, you were named Sports Business Journal, one of Sports Business Journal's 40 under 40 people in the industry. Under 40 years of age that have done outstanding work, the first person in racing to do that. All I can say is enjoy it while it lasts, because the time will fly by and you will no longer be eligible for that award.
I am no longer eligible as of last month. So I'm now. Yeah, I just beat the deadline, Ray. I'm 40 now, but thank you very much.
Well, congratulations on that. That's a great recognition. So we're 4 weeks out from the Breeders' Cup. Back to Lexington, Keeneland, which hosted the event during COVID. It's going to be different this year, right? What can we expect this year at the Breeders' Cup at Keeneland?
Well, we're really, really excited at the company and Keeneland. They're just tremendous partners of ours. And 2020 was, I think, nothing that anyone wanted were to have the Breeders' Cup without fans. But it was the right decision to make at the time. And when we made that decision, though, we simultaneously announced that we would be back to Keeneland as soon as we could, which was 2 years later. So the planning for this event, it's been going on for many, many years. But we're also really excited to welcome the fans back to Keeneland. I think it was fair to those that purchased tickets for 2020, they could purchase the same seats for 2022. And also for the local businesses, the hotels, and the horse capital of the world. So this has been many, many years in the making, but we're really, really excited to return here. And some things that we didn't have in 2020, or this year, we're building approximately 175,000 square feet of additional temporary infrastructure. So it's going to be an amazing, spectacular event. I think everybody really enjoyed the Breeders' Cup in 2015. And I think we said, look, let's do it again and let's raise the bar even higher.
How does that compare, the temporary structures compared to the first time Keeneland hosted the event?
Yeah, those worked so well that we're giving a similar footprint for them. Mm-hmm. But we've upgraded the facilities, so they're newer. And I think last time we did it, it was the first triple-decker chalet in the U.S., and we built something even better this year. So we're really, really excited about it. I mean, we have the best fans, and they deserve something like this.
You mentioned the hotels, restaurants, and so on. The Breeders' Cup being in Kentucky, and I think especially at Keeneland, is also good for the horse sales, I think, because people do stick around afterwards, go to the Fasig-Tipton Keeneland mixed sales. If you could put a number on the economic impact of having the Breeders' Cup in Lexington, do you have an estimate on that?
Yeah, I mean, we did a study the last time we were in Louisville, and I anticipate we'll probably have between $75 and $100 million of economic impact for the city. And I mean, and they deserve it. I mean, I think the moment you get off an airplane in Kentucky, it's something in the air that says horse racing. And you go to restaurants, you go to coffee shops, people are talking racing, they're talking breeding, and I think it'll be a really good atmosphere for our fans. They're the best. I mean, they travel from all over the world, and to showcase Central Kentucky, the horse farms, the bourbon industry, it's going to be a lot of fun for everyone.
Are everyday fans priced out of this event, or is it still something that they can do? It's gotten to be an expensive ticket.
Yeah. So one of the things we really pride ourselves on at the Breeders' Cup is trying to have a ticket package and experience for all different expense accounts and different demands. And if you look at ticket pricing in the marketplace, from concerts to sporting events, I mean, tickets aren't cheap right now, but for Friday, for the Breeders' Cup, we're glad to offer general admission tickets for $75. And then for Saturday, those have sold out because there's high demand, and we anticipate a sellout this year of all tickets. But for Saturday, we offer general admission tickets for $125. Not to say there's also really incredible experiences with the chalets where it's fine dining, and those could be anywhere to $1,800 for the 2-day package.
But so On track, what are we looking at? What is I think one of the great things about the Breeders' Cup, really from the beginning, was the international participation. And some years are better than others. This year, we're not going to have the ARC winner. I guess she's going to the Japan Cup. They have a bonus that ties the two races together. What does it look like right now, a month out, as far as what kind of international participation you'll have?
Well, I got in late last night. I was actually in France for the ARC and working closely with Josh Christian, who helps with recruiting international horses, particularly from Europe. And last year, despite all the global travel restrictions and just issues traveling in general, we had a record number 42 international participants. And so that's something we don't want to digress from. And I think that's one of the beauties and what makes the Breeders' Cup so special. We've had great interest so far from all over the world, and we're anticipating to have strong international participation again.
If I'm not mistaken, the Japanese racing fans bet something like $60 million on the Arc de Triomphe, which probably is more than they bet in France. I'm just guessing.
But that's accurate. They do.
Huh?
That's accurate. They bet more. The Japanese bet more on the Arc than the French.
And last year we had the breakthrough wins by the Japanese horses. Are we going to have anybody from Japan in the Breeders' Cup this year that would allow, I guess, wagering in Japan on those races?
I mean, we surely hope to. We've got a wonderful relationship with the JRA. My first trip as president and CEO from the Breeders' Cup was to Japan, and had dinner Sunday night with Mr. Goto, who's the CEO of the JRA. And we continue. I think racing in general continue to grow international, and to be, it's certainly a global game. And the more we can incorporate an international calendar and showcase the best horses from around the world and the strength of the business, it's great for everyone.
So we talked a little bit about ticketing. Sponsorship is part of the revenue stream for the Breeders' Cup too, which I think is growing over the years. Wagering, which is a big part of the revenue for the Breeders' Cup. And then finally, nominations, full nominations, stallion nominations, and horses and training nominations. How do those three revenue streams kind of match as far as what's the leader? Is it divided equally, or where are those revenue streams?
And it can vary year by year. I mean, wagering last year was an all-time record, where we had in the parimutuel pools over $200 million US wagered. And in Breeders' Cup, we operate our own Breeders' Cup global pool, where we had betting, I think, 27 countries into the pool. And that's something we're certainly seeing growth on. And I think it's great for the industry to see the strength in that, which shows the demand and interest in racing and our product. Sponsorship, we've got a wonderful sponsorship team headed by Heather Higgins, and grabbed great long-standing relationship with Longines. FanDuel TVG has been a great partner as well, and we continue to grow that part of the business as well. But I think the backbone has always been from our business, the breeders and nominators from across the globe, that without their continued support, and they were the initial support, but they've been with us since the very beginning. Without them, we wouldn't have the Breeders' Cup that we do, and I can't thank the breeders enough for that continued support.
I would think there were concerns a few years ago when the full crop started going down, and it has remained down. So I would think full nominations are not at historic highs. Obviously, they're probably percentage-wise they are, but stud fees seem to be heading upward, and so it's a combination of stud fees and full nominations.
Well, and I think if you look at record Keeneland sales, Fasig tipped in an amazing sale. Tattersall's is off to a wonderful start. Right. Goff's was great. This just shows the strength and interest in our great sport, and the passion for the business. I mean, wagering is record, horse sales are record. Like, couldn't be excited more to be a part of it.
So, Breeders' Cup is a fairly cash-rich organization. They've done well over the years. They've got an investment fund. I've heard some horsemen suggest that Breeders' Cup should help sort of fill a gap right now that's been created when Tex Sutton's lost his plane, and the ability to fly horses around the country became a much bigger challenge for trainers. I know that's one thing John Sadler talked about when he decided not to send Flightline to Saratoga for the Whitney. He said, it's not easy to travel these days. Some have said the Breeders' Cup should help fund equine travel, lease a plane or something. Has there been any discussion about that at the board level?
Well, we don't get into board specifics, but putting that aside, we've been in discussions with Tech Sutton. We've said, whatever we can do to support and help. And I think one of the issues is being able to identify an aircraft right now, with cargo being so expensive and so lucrative for plane owners. But again, we're continuing dialogue, and we always love to help the business. We're not experts in aviation by any means. But if we can always look for people to help, we'll do that.
Because right now, is FedEx the main alternative for flights?
For domestic, and then the horsemen are used to it, other than a non-Breeders' Cup event where we would have a charter that comes from various directions. But primarily domestically, it would be FedEx. Internationally, we've secured a charter with Qatar Airways that will be taking our European participants over. But I don't disagree with you. It's something that would be very ideal for the U.S. To have its own kind of internal plane like we used to.
Yeah, it's been a lot of horsemen have been talking about how difficult it's gotten to fly horses around the country now. So another thing that came up recently, the first ever horse racing women's summit was held at Santa Anita, and your director of racing, Dora Delgado, was a participant in one of the panels. And one of the things I noticed in looking at the Breeders' Cup website, you've got 14 member board of directors, one woman. It's the chair, Barbara Banke, but 1 out of 14. And then on the members, the people who are elected by the nominators, there's 4 women out of 44, I believe. What can be done to make the Breeders' Cup and other racing organizations more diverse?
Well, one, I'm glad we had the forum. I think it's very important to address and talk about these issues. And if you look at growing customer segment and really, frankly, what's fair, I think we need to continue to increase diversity at all levels. Particularly, I think one of the things we're proud about at the Breeders' Cup is, Barbara Banke is an amazing chair, and she does a wonderful job. And then if you look at our senior staff, if you include Barbara, it's 50% female. Our staff as a company is, I think, just north of 65% is a female, but that's not to say we can all do more through things like hiring practices and recruitment. The Breeders' Cup board and members, that's an election process.
Right.
And I think what we can do, though, is encourage more and more diversity in the sport and recruit, new owners. And I think as a whole, we need to do more. Finally,
Breeders' Cup has been sort of on this 4-track cycle for a while now with Keeneland, Churchill, Santa Anita, and Del Mar. What does the future look like in terms of other tracks?
Well, we announced a couple of months ago that we'll be at Santa Anita for 2023. We're still finalizing some further planning and future host site announcements. In an ideal world, we would announce at least 3 years out where we would be. COVID, I think, delayed some of that, and we needed to be as nimble as we could to just address unknown situations like none of us have had to encounter before. But I think Breeders' Cup is also always looking at potential new venues. I think it's probably no surprise that New York has always been a fantastic spot for Breeders' Cup. I talk to David O'Rourke on a weekly basis, if not more than that. And, I think stay tuned.
Okay. I was going to say, that's the number one question I get about Breeders' Cup is from fans saying, when is it ever going to go back to New York? And my answer is that apparently the Breeders' Cup needs to have more high-end ticketing available, entertainment opportunities for people at Belmont. Is that fair?
Well, I think there's a number. Belmont's a great facility, but I know that they've talked publicly about potentially renovating Belmont. Right now, there's no, I think, corporate suites that you pointed out. Also, don't think there's heat. So a couple things that if you're running a races in November, you might really look at.
All right, now here's the toughest question. What horse are you looking forward to seeing the most on Breeders' Cup? They provided all the ones that are anticipating going will be there.
Well, I think it's as Mark Twain always said, it's a difference of opinions as to why we have horse racing. But the one thing that's always been consistent, the best horses from around the world will be coming. I know people have been very interested with Flightline, particularly his performance in the Pacific Classic. But I think one thing's for sure, the best horses will be at Keeneland in short order.
Well, you dodged that one pretty well, I think.
No.
Drew, thanks a lot for joining us on the Friday show this week. Wishing you the best of luck between now and Breeders' Cup Day, and hoping that it's a safe Breeders' Cup. I know that that's something that actually Breeders' Cup has been at the forefront of safety. So I don't think the creation of HISA will have that much effect on the Breeders' Cup, will it?
Well, we're tremendous backers of HISA. I was with Lisa Lazarus a couple of days ago, and I think it is the biggest opportunity our sport has had in a long time. And we all know we need to get this right. It's a monumental undertaking, but Lisa's building a dream team to positively impact this sport for forever. And I think if you look at what's the importance and why we need HISA, looking at our landscape prior to HISA, we had 38 states with different rules, regulations, and adjudication. Imagine if that were the case for something like the NFL, where at each different venue you had different rules you had to follow. It'd be utter chaos. And I think that's why Lisa and her team have done such a great job, and we're tremendous backers of theirs and will continue to be as supportive if they need us to be. But like you said, Breeders' Cup has the world-class safety and integrity standards, out of competition testing, post-race testing, an amazing veterinary team, because we'll always put safety first.
Yeah. Well, again, good luck. Thanks for joining us, and look forward to a great 2 days of racing at Keeneland. And I assume if anyone is interested in tickets, they can go to breederscup.com.
Yeah, and I would urge you to go quick. We anticipate a sellout, so if you're interested in coming, please purchase it.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this week. Thanks again. We'll see you next week.
Support award-winning independent horse industry journalism and become a Paulick Report Insider on Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, insiders get access to exclusive Q&As with Paulick Report staff, insight behind our editorial process, exclusive opinions and on-site analysis, Paulick Report merch, and more. This is not a paywall. The website you know and love will always be the same. But if you want more, and you want to make our coverage even better, visit patreon.com/Paulick Report and become a Paulick Report Insider today.